Welcome back to Yin and Yang Healing. It's Kirsten and Kirsten's looking up something for me because I keep waking up in the middle of the night to have to urinate.
Okay, I am gonna sneak away because I kind of want to just like compare the two because the book I'm looking at is like the children's one, but my adult book is downstairs, so I kind of want to compare like the two.
Okay.
So why don't you tell everyone kind of like what's going on?
Okay, you're gonna go and get it.
I'm gonna go and get it, yeah.
Okay, go and get it, and I'll talk about what's happening here. So anyway, it's like it just happened recently. I'd say probably in the last week, where I'm just, I have to wake up around, I'd say approximately 3 in the morning to go to the bathroom. I have to pee. And it's like I know there's a lot of people that struggle with this issue, and it's not something that is common for me. And so I feel like it is emotional. And I feel like part of the reason that I feel it's emotional is because I'm going through something emotional, which is that I have put so many different products out to the world before and so many different offers out to the world before that, quite frankly, has failed. And it failed because I didn't understand how to market it properly. Not that the product or the offer was bad, it's just that I didn't know how to deliver it to people. So anyway, I'm working on something new. I have a marketing mentor, and there's these different things that I am supposed to be doing, based on his advice to make this a successful launch. And it is really scary, and I feel like I'm at a point where I am paralyzed to take the next step, because if I take the next step, it's basically putting it in front of people and waiting to see if I don't know, it's going to go good kind of thing. And so that's really freaky, and I think that is subconsciously first of all holding me back, and secondly keeping me up at night. So even though I'm sleeping super deeply, super soundly, I'm getting woken up approximately around this time, which actually kind of makes sense because urinary bladder on the meridians is 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. And sometimes that can show up in the opposite time. So because it's 3 a.m., 3 p.m. So it makes sense to me, because otherwise, if I look at what else is in 3 a.m. is liver, anger, resentment, frustration. There's probably a bit of frustration in there, but I don't think the other emotions really fit the bill. So that's why I think that it is urinary bladder meridian, for those who are wondering.
Did you ever have like that issue like as a kid, like having to like urinate a lot at night?
No.
Hmm.
Why?
Just curious. I don't know.
Oh,
Seeing if there's a pattern there. Hold on.
I thought maybe your book was telling you something.
No, I'm not gonna give it away that easy. Hold on, I just gotta look up something.
Okay. Well, I did look up the what Google says the term is for it is nocturia. And I'm so happy that this is going to be added to our playlist of physical symptoms, or sorry, emotional causes of physical symptoms.
Yes.
And yeah, nocturnal polyuria is the medical term for excessive urination at night. It's so interesting. I know actually quite a few people who have this issue. And I feel like a lot of people chalk it up to just like, oh, I'm getting older. But I don't believe that. It to me, it tells me that the body is out of balance.
Yep.
Um,
What's the second word of that? Nocturnal what?
Polyuria. Polyuria.
Hold on. Like, you know what's funny is like sometimes I'll be in a session with somebody and I'm like, hold up. And I like pull out my phone and I'm like, okay, I gotta like research, like, because I like to know exactly what the definition of a certain thing is. Like, what is it exactly? Because usually there's like the key, like the answer a little bit in that definition itself.
Right. Well, it says well, here, I can Google the definition of define nocturnal polyuria. So I was gonna say Google says, but actually I don't use Google. I use DuckDuckGo because Google is a scam.
It is, and they their algorithm is like totally messed up to find any like information on like natural means.
Especially natural stuff. Yeah. So I don't use Google for, I just feel like Google feeds you what the mainstream wants you to know. So anyway, DuckDuckGo says nocturnal polyuria is a subset of polyuria and it simply means voiding a high volume of urine in the nighttime or evening hours. Another definition says nocturnal polyuria is a condition that causes an overproduction of urine at night. But I don't think that's not what I have, though. I don't think I have. Well, I don't know. Maybe I do. An
I think it
overproduction.
is because the urinary incontinence would basically mean like you lose control of your bladder, like the muscles there get really weak and you lose control, and so you would be leaking essentially. So that's what that would be.
That's not what happens. I guess
So,
like part of the reason why I say that like it's not really feeling aligned is just because it's not like I'm constantly getting up to go pee. There's just, I'll get up once and sometimes it is a lot and sometimes it's not a lot. So I think there's just like a portion of it there's just something emotional in my mind, like in my understanding, I guess, that is waking me up around that time.
yeah. And it's interesting because I used to get up and go to the washroom all the time I don't remember exactly when. I just remember there's a point in my life where it felt like and I was when I was in a specific relationship, but like I always had to get up in the middle of the night to go to the washroom. And I was like, what is that? Like, it's so annoying. But like ever since then, like I've never had to like do that ever again. Like I never wake up to go to the washroom. I'll wake up early, like in the morning, but
Yeah.
I'll never wake up like in the middle of the night to go to the washroom. It's very unusual.
Yeah. And I feel
I
like
think that's
that's
like a
why
sign to you.
I feel like that's exactly why I noticed this, because it's not normal for me. I don't normally have this. And it's only since I got to this part of having to create this thing that I'm working on that I feel really, I don't want to say stuck, but like stuck in a sense, but more so there's just something holding me back from taking the next step, which shouldn't really be that hard because I feel like I already have all the things. It's just a matter of getting over myself in a sense.
Can I read you the kidney portion of this book?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is coming from like the adult metaphysical anatomy books. I
Okay.
really feel like everyone should have both of these books like on hand. And like, I'm like beyond the point, like I don't even Google shit anymore. I'm like, oh, something's wrong. My big yellow book?
Yeah, for
Like
sure.
for real. Cause I was having all of these like symptoms come up too for the last couple of weeks with me, having to do with like my job and stuff like that. And I'm like, it was like 1 o'clock in the morning. I couldn't sleep. Insomnia was like one of the symptoms. And I'm like looking up literally like 6, 7 different symptoms, like inability to like lose weight or fat, and insomnia, and like tooth problems, and celiac, like all of these like things. I was looking them up and they were all just like so on point for like everything that was like going on with the job. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. I got like a weird skin rash, like so many things. And I was like, what the heck? But when I read it, I was like, oh, okay. And then some of them started to kind of like dissipate, and just like I had this understanding of, was like, well, that makes sense. All these things are happening because all of the things at work are very intense. And so it had like been building up, building up, building up, building up. So, okay, kidneys. It says the kidneys store a great deal of anger and resentment. You often feel very upset due to old abandonment and rejection trauma. You seem to always expect the worst. You may have found yourself in a situation or partnership that is triggering old abandonment and rejection trauma. Um, and I think partnership could even be like with your business. I don't think partnership is just like in a relationship per se. The fear surfaces in the form of resentment and anger. Anger and resentment is your most powerful defense and keeps threatening situations and people at bay. Use resentment to fight against challenges. You often feel as if you've wasted time facing unsuccessful relationships and goals. You had an emotionally intense relationship with a parent or influential person. When you express a need for love, you are often met with hostility, anger, blame, or resentment. You've had enough of toxic environments and people. Your anger and resentment loom at large, which is an impact on how you process and handle situations. You often feel held back by influential people. This has caused a feeling of helpless and powerlessness to bring about new changes in your life. You may create self-sabotaging patterns such as abusing substance or alcohol. This pattern could also include attracting people who are not for your highest and best. You feel like no one really likes you and your own family is against you. The more a person overlooks and ignores the resentment and anger, the more sluggish and toxic the kidneys become. If you feel emotionally challenged to let go of any negative emotions, the kidney will also feel challenged to let go of toxins. If the kidney had a personality, they would be quiet and calm. So it says for kidneys.
I zoned out there like right in the middle for some reason.
Interesting.
But that does, I mean, if you, Kate, this is really interesting that you even brought up the fact that it doesn't necessarily have to be a person. It could be my relationship with my business, or even just like my relationship with maybe money, or my relationship with my practice, or my relationship with,
Yeah, something that you're partnering with, like partnering with money, partnering with business,
yeah,
and maybe feeling like rejected or abandoned in some way, like by that.
which if I put it in the sense of that, it makes a lot of sense, because like I said, I have fucking tried so many different business related ventures that have failed and failed and failed and failed. And now, once I finally have a mentor who's pushing my boundaries and basically giving me a framework,
Yeah.
I'm like fucking scared to actually go out there, because, well, what happens if I succeed? Well, then shit, now a whole bunch of other stuff's gonna have to change. I'm gonna have to figure out what it's like. I'm almost getting ahead of myself in a sense, because it's like basically my mentor who is helping me with like marketing the business kind of thing. He's like, once you apply this framework, he's like, it's like super powerful, is basically what he's saying. And that is a little bit scary, because then it's like, okay, well, what happens if there's this windfall of clients, of money, of which comes with problems, of all these different things.
Oh,
I'm working 40 hours a week with another company right now, which I love. They're amazing. And I was actually just funny right before we got on this. I was just thinking like, man, they really are like one of the best people I've ever worked with. Just in the sense of like team culture and compassion for their clients and that kind of stuff. And so it's like, and I love what they're doing too. And so having to shift from that and that security to this other thing that is just like what I said, potentially a windfall. It's like, you know, I don't want to let down people who come into my world on that side of things, you know. Let's say hypothetically, and like I said, I'm probably getting ahead of myself, but let's say hypothetically, there is a windfall of clients that come in and I don't have the systems, I don't have the time to support them in the way that I want to. It's like, that's what I don't want to happen. I don't want something like that to happen. That scares me. And on the other hand, it also scares me to like put all this fucking work into launching this thing and then silence.
Yeah. And I get that. I get where you're coming from. It's a lot when you're in this like transition phase, because I feel like no matter what, at some point you just get caught under like the tidal wave of it, of like the transition. And you have to kind of just be like, hey, I'm ready. And you just go and do it. And then it's like, you just have to wait for the moment where you're going to come up from the tidal wave.
Yeah.
You might be down there for like a little bit and it's panicking. Like, oh my God, am I going to get to the surface again? Like, oh my God. But
that's
I feel
an interesting analogy because I have been slammed a few times in real life under waves. So that's fucking scary.
Yeah, I was one time, and the best way for me to describe like in my business and what we were talking about like the past like few episodes in my world, that's literally what it was feeling like to me. To make like these transitions, it feels like I just have to accept that I'm going to be underneath a tidal wave for a certain amount of time until everything like levels off, because it's like you can't just abandon one part of your life, or could you? It feels like you can't just abandon the one part of your life to make the other part of your life like happen. So then you're kind of like caught up under the tidal wave, and it kind of keeps on like coming and coming and coming. So like each time you think you're gonna get to the top, this other like wave comes, and then like you're still kind of like held down under the wave, and you're like, gosh, is it ever gonna like am I ever gonna get back to shore kind of thing?
Yeah, it's scary.
And you're like, why'd I even go in the water in the first place? And you're like, match, that's the whole thing.
Yo, just one sec. I'm sorry, I want to pay attention to you, but someone just rang my doorbell and I just want to see who's chilling.
There?
Check my cam.
Did you order a package?
I don't think so. I feel like it's just weird because sometimes like I would say 90% of the time people just knock on the door. They don't ring the doorbell. So it feels weird when people ring the doorbell.
Maybe,
which is so strange because growing up, it's like people rang the doorbell all the time.
Yeah.
And we would just be so jacked. We'd be like, oh my God. And now
I know, like I never ring the doorbell either. She like now I go to people's homes and I'm like, knock, knock, knock. So I'm like, I don't know, do they got like a crazy dog? Do they have like someone sleeping? Like, I don't know.
Okay. It's just my parent-in-laws. Okay, so we're good. There's no creepy people outside my door.
Good.
Sorry. Anyway, back to the topic.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you kind of nailed it. It is. It's I think it is kind of a fear of feeling caught in that tidal wave. Either way, like it could be, you know, tidal wave of clients, or it could be a tidal wave of failure. It could be a tidal wave of change.
Like lots of ways. Yeah.
And I guess now that I'm thinking about it, this piece that my mentor said makes a lot more sense, where he's like, I just made an agreement with myself that I would just be tired for a week. And it was like when he was launching his thing, he's just like, I just told myself, okay, you're only going to get 5 hours of sleep every night. You're just going to be tired all week. And I just did it.
Yeah.
So it's like, maybe that's kind of something that I need to do with myself, is just make an agreement with myself that, you're going to go through this thing and it could be tough. But what if it didn't have to be that way?
Yeah. Like
This is the other.
how much easier like could it be if you didn't have that judgment and conclusion on it that it has to be that.
True. Yeah, exactly. I feel like that's what
Or
I
what if
need
it
to
was
instill.
like busier, but what if what if you were just able to like handle it and recalibrate and readjust and
Yeah,
yeah.
for sure. It's like, what if? I don't know. It's like, what if I could just get a VA and it helped with that or something? I don't know. It that might not be the exact solution, but basically all I'm saying is, like, you're right. How okay, let me bring out the access consciousness phrase. What how would I say that?
What
How much ease could it be? What's another way to rephrase that? If I wasn't judging it, how much ease could it be?
yeah. Because we all know like it's the judgment and the conclusions about it that creates the difficulty, not it itself.
I feel like this is a common thing popping up for us, is like how, and I think this is pretty normal for a lot of people. You're just like judging it and projecting, but it makes sense because as humans we operate on what we've experienced, so we're like
Right.
projecting based on what we've already experienced. But
Mhm.
what if it
I
didn't have
know.
to be?
Yeah. I feel you. Me too. It's kind of like the same. I was going through like the same thing. It's just like really, it's a lot. It's overwhelming to transition from like the one thing to like the next. But it's like, but if you don't do it, you'll essentially never get under the boat from under the tidal wave and you'll just die there. You'll just die under the tidal wave.
I don't want to
Right?
die.
Like if you're stuck in something and you want to like get to shore or get to the boat or I don't know, whatever.
Yeah.
Like the only way out is like up and overcoming it. Otherwise you just surrender and you just float to the bottom of the ocean.
Get caught on the coral reef.
Yeah,
And
and then you got nothing. Like and whether that's like, you know, this very physical analogy or your dreams die at the bottom of the ocean. Just yeah.
you pass over to the mermaid world.
Yeah.
Hmm. Well, for I guess like this is a good calling for anyone else kind of experiencing really overwhelming changes or transitions in life. It's like, what are you
Mm-hmm.
judging about it, and how much easier could it be? But I think this kind of goes back to that other episode where I was kind of poking you a lot, where it's like, okay, but you're judging that thing. Okay, but you're projecting on that thing. But and it's like, but just because we don't know what the new thing, what the more easeful thing is, doesn't mean it can't happen.
Right.
And the other part of that, I feel like that is really hard for us to just consciously accept, is just the way that we are physiologically built. Anything that's new is triggers a fear response in us. And so it's like there's a movie called The Crooks or Krugs or something like that. It's like an animated film where he's like, and then they saw something new and they died. Kind of similar. Like that's like, I feel like what goes on in our brains. Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's kind of where I'm at. And
I think it's an interesting thing too, just like on the, you know, we've talked about like ancestral generational stuff too. I think it's definitely can definitely have a lot of that kind of like woven in to that too, as like, you know, especially if you don't have anyone in your family currently who's like already like a business owner, already doing like what you're doing. It is, I think, like deep, deep, deep down, it's like, I'm not going to be a part of like that group anymore, because you're kind of like differentiating yourself in the way that you do business, whether that's like, you know, working for someone else or working for yourself, like you're differentiating yourself. So you're kind of like pulling away from like the group, and everyone wants to feel like they belong. And so if you make more money and you do things in a different way, that's just like unconsciously separating yourself like from the group in some way. Even though
Yeah.
like, you know, it's not like your family's gonna be like, oh, like you make too much money, we don't love you anymore. You know what I mean? It's like, it's not like that, but the brain is like, well, like what if? Like what if they don't like me anymore? Right? Because we're just like taught to believe, I think we talked about it in a previous episode, but like people who make money are assholes.
Yeah. I think if I think about it, probably what is there in that sense for me would be because my parents really like to help. They love to come and like help us do stuff, but you know, if I had a windfall, I wouldn't necessarily need their help in that sense. I could just hire people or, you know, get it done myself or whatever. And so, yeah, so then it would be kind of like, okay, well, how are we going to connect now in that sense? Because that is a lot of the reason why we spend time together. The other thing too, which is kind of interesting that you brought up, is my my mom very much is a like have a traditional job. And I was just talking to them about this last weekend too. Have a traditional job, it's stable and blah blah blah. And my dad, he did have jobs or whatever, but for the most part, most of my growing up, he had his own business. But now when I talk about like making that jump, he never fights for me. He like joins my mom's side, which is like, yeah, stay in your stable business, blah, 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 or stay in your stable job, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I don't think you guys understand the gap that our generation now has with working hard and working a stable job. It just doesn't fucking cut it anymore. And I even asked them, I'm like, okay, how much did you buy your house for? They bought their house for 80 grand. I'm like, okay, well, what was your yearly income? About like 40 grand yearly income. I'm like, okay, so it was about double. You like your house was worth about double. I'm like, what is it now? I'm like, I'm making roughly 50 grand, which is not a lot more than you guys were fucking making way back then. What did our house cost? 650. That's like almost 10 times. I'm
Yeah,
like, so it just doesn't cut
plus the
it.
cost of everything else. You know what I mean?
I know exactly. Plus everything else. I'm like, so it literally doesn't make fucking sense for you boomers. Sorry, boomers out there, but it's true to say to us, millennials and Gen X's, or is it Gen X? Millennials and
Gen
younger,
Z.
to say to us, you just need to work harder because it makes no fucking sense. How can we possibly work 10 times harder? We don't have 10 times the amount of time.
See, and then that's where like the subconscious like fear of like feeling guilty might even like come into play, because it's like, well, they had to like work really hard, and so maybe I feel kind of like guilty or afraid to do this work, even though I really want it consciously. Maybe I feel afraid to like do this work because like maybe they're right. Maybe I'm not like working hard. Maybe I should like work hard like they did. They worked really, really hard and like long hours, but like didn't earn the way that you can like earn now.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll just stay afraid of this, and then I'll just like keep working hard and keep doing like what they want me to do to be part of the family.
True. Very true.
Yeah. And I would even suggest like what's dad's fear with like owning a business? Like what happened in his business that he's like not encouraging that entrepreneurship?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. Off the top of my head, a few things I can think of is his first, I would say 5 years was pretty hard.
Mm-hmm.
My mom basically supported us during that time.
Yeah.
She had a government job, so it was pretty cushy. But like maybe that's part of the reason, because I know that he felt stressed about that, like he wasn't being the provider.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think he did stress a lot about his business later down the road. I mean, he was pretty successful like near the end. But then also, neither my brother or I wanted to take over that business. And so I wonder if
Right.
maybe there's like a bit of sadness there for him.
Yeah, because I think a lot of times like that older generation, like it's not building a business isn't just about like the business and earning money. It really is about like leaving a legacy, and you hope that your family is gonna like take it over in some way. Otherwise, what's the point of all that hard work and all that struggle and all that everything that now it's just like done?
Yeah.
It's a very different like mindset and like the way that we do business now. I just maybe like some people still are like, yeah, well, this could be a legacy passed down, but I just feel like the older generation really like felt that if you start a business, it's not just a business, it's not just to earn money, it's something more than that.
Yeah.
So then if there's like a denial of like that, then there even would be like the fear and guilt of like, again, like losing connection in the close relationships because it's like, well, I went and like did my own business and I didn't honor like
I do
and
feel guilty sometimes. I'm like, oh fuck, I should have taken over the
it's like,
business, because
yeah,
it
it's like
was like good
how
money
yeah. So it's
and it
like,
was
how dare
basically all
I
set
like go and
up.
like make my own money and like start something from brand new when there was this thing here that I could have taken, but I chose not to.
But the problem with that is that I actually did work with him for, I don't know, probably like a year. And I was just like, I'm not interested in this stuff. He owned a
Yeah.
printing, he was basically a broker for printing.
Yeah.
He like print like, posters and books and whatever kind of shit you print.
Yeah.
Literally anything that you print. And it's novel for like a bit of time, but I could never see myself doing that for 30 plus years, even though the
Yeah.
money was like pretty fucking badass.
Right.
And I feel
But
like that's
it's,
kind of where I have held a little bit of guilt and regret, is like, oh shit, I could have just fucking had this dough
yeah.
roll coming in. But
Yeah. So now it's like, it's creating like that kind of like paralyzed will, right? Because you like made this like choice of your own will not to choose that, but it's also at the same time kind of like emotionally paralyzing you from making the choice that like the complete choice of what you want to make, right? You made part of the choice, which was to not do that business, but now the other half of your choice is your own business and doing what you want to do and helping people. But it's that paralyzed will is kind of like, what happens to me? What happens to my family if I create my own business
mhm.
and I'm actually like successful at it? Like what happens like with that? And honestly, dad might be saying, yeah, don't do it and just get a conventional job because he might even have his own like subconscious like bitterness and sadness and hurt and disappointment that you didn't take over that business. Who knows?
Yeah. Or he's like, or he could, on the other hand, be thinking how much work it was that he put into his business and doesn't want that for me. And at the same time,
Yes.
I'm just like, it just, to me, I just feel like our generation, the work hard thing, just, it doesn't fucking work anymore. Like, how many of our generation can even afford to buy a house? Not
Yeah.
very many, because we can barely afford to fucking just live.
Yeah.
And so it's like to me, that's where like something has to shift, something has to change.
I think people also really realize the value of like, what's the point of like working hard, even now. Let's just say you have a spouse that works in the oil field, and they work like 3 weeks out of the month. Like, I think this generation is really realizing, what's the point of all that fucking money if you're not spending time with your spouse and your family, and making memories? Like, what's the point of having like that money? There's no point in having a really nice house if you never get to see mom or dad because they're working in the oil field. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? So I think also that's why a lot of people are like, fuck it, and let's get a tiny home, and like, or let's just live in an RV and like make less money, because I think people also are really realizing like the value is not as much on the stuff and the consumption of things anymore. It's more on like family values and spending time together, making memories.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's another part of why I'm trying to do this, right? It's like fucking sit here on the computer 40 hours a week building someone else's dream. And then, how do I have enough time to hang out with my family and do stuff? You know what I mean?
Right.
And it's like
So,
not even just that, but having the resources to be able to go and do things with the family. It's like that's another struggle. It's like we're
right.
talking about, you know, being able to
Yeah.
afford things. I feel like that is a huge part of spending time with people you love, is being able to go and do things with them.
Yeah.
But
This
everything
generation
fucking costs money.
this generation is really learning other ways to earn money, right?
Yeah.
It's not, there's lots of ways that you can earn money in a way that's very in alignment, that's, for the good of everyone involved. It's not sneaky or shady. There's lots of ways to earn multiple streams of income and be well supported financially. And going to a job Monday to Friday, 9 to 5 is not it, because you're very limited in the potential amount of money you can make. You've earned your salary, or you've earned your hourly wage, and that's it. There's nothing more beyond that.
Yeah.
So,
And I think also too, this is the pull towards wanting to have, like for me, for example, this off-grid retreat, because that space also costs less money because it is more self-sufficient. So you're not
right.
having to like spend all this money on your mortgage, spend all this money on your power and heating and water and all that shit. You have more time, more resources to enjoy the wilderness around you, and B, like, take those extra resources and go do things with your family that you love to do. Like traveling the world, I feel like is an amazing experience to have with your family,
Yeah.
especially when you have kids, because it's like different cultures, different people, different spaces. Anyway.
Yeah. So the thing is that, okay, I listened to this podcast once, and she made a really good point. In She just said, like, if you want to up level your business, you have to like pre-hire the people that you need to hire in order for you to have the capacity. Otherwise, you will get paralyzed, well, like you were saying, right? Because it's like, what if there's a windfall of people and I don't have the capacity to like deal with it? It's like you kind of have to like take the bullet financially and like pre-hire a VA or whatever it is that you think you need for support. You have to pre-hire that person, and release and let go of the stress of hiring that person before you need them. She's like, every time she wanted to up level in her business, she pre-hired. She wasn't there yet, but she knew that whatever it was that she wanted to do wouldn't come to full fruition without the support. Because it's like energetically, you cannot receive it, because you cannot like hold it, you cannot support it, you don't have the infrastructure, physically, mentally, emotionally, to like take that on. So it's like it's not going to come to you. It's going to be close to you, but it's like it's not a match, because you can't support it. So
Yeah.
you kind of have to hire that support that you need before. And then how much easier would it be and relaxed would you be if you were like, fuck, like there's so many things that I don't have to do. Oh, I can just be so much more free to create and like get clients and like talk to people and connect with people and all the admin shit, someone else can do
Definitely.
it. Someone else is
Definitely.
already doing it. So you have so much freedom and energy to like do what you got to do.
It's interesting because when you first started talking about it, I was like, I have a judgment against this, but it's because I've heard the complete opposite from other entrepreneurs where they're like, your business will get to a point where you're gonna be like, oh shit, I need to like beef up my systems. And so they do it like the opposite way. But you're right, like it doesn't
To
have
me
to be
that
that
sounds like
way.
this, that sounds like a struggle kind of way. And
Yeah.
I don't know, the other way that I was just talking about when she said it, I was like, that resonates with me so much because that's a way of like faith and trust that like you will be supported when you, it's like that manifestation. It's like you kind of have to like, I always imagine like manifesting like what you want and taking like the next level is like this trust, this like deep trust that like you're supported no matter what. However, I imagine it like you're standing on a cliff, and for you to like be supported and take that next foot forward, you kind of have to take that step off, even though you're like, well, I'm gonna fall. I'm gonna take this step, I'm gonna fall off this freaking cliff. But the faith is knowing that like as soon as you take that step, when you put your foot down, there's magically gonna be something there that supports you. And you're like, oh, okay.
It's an
But it's
invisible
like,
bridge.
yeah, it's like that, but that bridge doesn't like manifest unless you take the faith and the trust to like move forward. It's like you're always just stay paralyzed by the vision of like, well, there's nothing there supporting me. And it's like you create or co-create your reality. So like if you're constantly going to stay on the ledge, that's your maximum, that's it. That's as far as you go. So as far as you go. So if you want to cross
Yeah.
over to the other side, you have to take that leap of faith and do the thing. And to me, that feels lighter and seems easier than pushing yourself, be at the maximum in your business and you're drained out, and then you hire somebody. I don't know. That
Well,
feels,
even though I had judgment when you were first talking about it, I thank you for talking about it because I feel like I agree with you in listening to this. I'm like, yeah, that makes a lot more sense, especially
yeah,
for the way that we typically approach stuff, because it is kind of like living in the way that you want to manifest your life to be kind of thing.
yeah,
You know what I mean? It's like
yeah,
I want to have a team to support me. So why don't I just get the team and then be like, we're going to have a supported team.
yeah. Because otherwise, like if you don't, because to me, like that's internal. That's you internally making that choice and doing something. Otherwise, you're just gonna wait for external factors to just
Mm-hmm.
line up.
And also, like, I don't want to, like you said, I don't want to have that stress or feeling in like struggle. I want to feel the space to create and help and provide.
Yeah, and then that's a space where it's like, okay, so you're not doing everything. You've already like hired out. You're already having someone do a lot of the work. You're starting to earn money, be more creative. You get to spend time with your friends and family. You're getting even more creative by doing that because it's good for you. And if it's good for you, it's good for your clients, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's good for them too because then you have more capacity. What's not good for them is you not even starting anything.
Yeah, 100% for sure.
Yeah, yeah. So hire that VA. No, it's funny. I've been wanting to hire a VA for like for so long. I'm just like, I just need to do it. I just need to put it on a credit card and I just need to hire a VA because there's certain things that are um that's literally the main thing that holds me back is having to do certain types of work that I don't want to do
Yeah.
because it's draining to me to go to a job, work at a job, to do my business, see my clients, try to grow my business, so go above and beyond just seeing clients, trying to actually grow my business, put those systems like actually in place, do all the administrative work for like all of that, and then like live my life and like go to the grocery store and like see my family and like, friends. I have
Yeah.
friends that like need me right now. It's like I don't want to be a dick and not be there for them, but it's like a lot. And then I've got these tasks that I like hate doing. I hate it, hate it, hate it, hate it. And then it's like I can't even like show up for my clients or new clients because I'm struggling through like work that I hate doing. It's like, why do I have to do it? I don't have to do it. I don't have to.
It, aka, it doesn't have to be a struggle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm like, there's
It's
someone, and I was telling my sister about this too the other day. I was like, there's literally somebody who could do the work that you despise doing faster than you. And it would be worth it for you to spend your money on that because that's their job. Like their job is to do that.
Mhm.
So, finding someone who's efficient and good at their job, how much time and energy would that save you? And then maybe you could actually find the joy in like doing the laundry. Maybe it's not the laundry that's like the shitty thing. Maybe it's because you have too many things on your task and that one just happens to be the shittiest of them all. But what if you didn't have to do those other shitty tasks? Would this task be so shitty? I don't know. Maybe not.
Yeah, for sure.
You'd be like a lot more free. And then you do the creative part of like taking the pictures, editing the pictures, the stuff that lights you up. You get to do that. The other like communications and admin work and invoicing and whatever. I'm like, someone else could do that for you.
Yeah.
It would be worth it. You could earn more money and work less. And you'd still have more, even though you're paying money out to somebody, you'd still have more money. You know what I
And if
mean?
you don't have a business, you can still apply this to your life in the sense of like what you were saying. Well, you fucking hate doing laundry, maybe. Then hire someone to do laundry. Like, honestly, how long would a person have to be there to do your fucking laundry? Probably not very long.
Right? Like if it's like if laundry is something you despise, right? You despise doing laundry and you dread it. You dread it. So then it gets done, but it stays in the laundry basket or it's on the floor or it's, it never gets washed. It's in the basement. And you're like, oh, you're folding your panties inside out so you can wear them because you just hate your laundry. That, you know what I mean? Like if you hate laundry so much or whatever task it is, maybe it's washing the floors or cleaning the toilets. I don't know. Maybe it's grocery shopping. Maybe you hate going to the store. I don't know. But
Mm-hmm.
there's ways that you can hire people, and how much more enjoyable would your life be? How much more could you receive from your life if you didn't have to do the thing that you dread doing?
And speaking of what we were talking about before, where our generation is trying to find different ways to make money, there's like people all over like just use Facebook Marketplace. They're looking for little jobs like this to make extra money. So it's like,
Yeah.
and they will charge like nothing. Like they'll charge you like
Yeah.
20 bucks to do one of these
And
tasks.
they the thing is they want to do it, right?
Exactly.
There's like some people who really love cleaning or really love doing laundry or that's their business. I don't know, but they like doing it. So if you don't like doing it, find the right person who wants to do it and then you have so much more freedom. And I told her, I was like, you already kind of like my sister, I was like, you kind of already did it. Now you just need to take it to the next level because they have 3 kids, my sister and her husband. And she was like, kids make messes when they eat. So they're little, they're all under 5 years old. So it's like you're constantly like sweeping and cleaning. It's just exhausting. And you start to like dread it because it's just something you have to do like 10 times a day. Well, they finally invested in one of those Roomba vacuums.
Oh
And she
yeah.
was like, best decision of our life. Right? Because it's like, yeah, how much more time and energy do you get back now that you're not sweeping like 20 times a day?
For
The
sure.
Roomba just goes about, does its thing, charges itself, and your floors are like 20 times cleaner.
Yeah.
Worth the investment. I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. I love it. Well, I think this has really kind of given me a little bit of a uplift.
Good.
And I think that, yeah, maybe that next step is I need to have something or someone there to kind of support me in taking the next step. So thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Yeah, it's too overwhelming to like do it all on your own. I've been wanting to hire a virtual assistant for like a year. And so it's a message to me too to like finally just like go and do it because it's hard to do everything all by yourself.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
Yeah. And so it's okay to like it's okay to like it's okay to get the help, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, get the help. Be free. Live your life.
Well, speaking of help, I just want to put it out there for all of our listeners and watchers. If you, whatever platform you're listening on, if you can go to that subscribe button, leave a comment, that will really help us out in just getting the podcast out to more people so we can help more of you. Yeah, so go ahead. If you're on Spotify, Kirsten, you're on Spotify, right? What is it? What
Yeah.
does the thing look like?
What do you mean?
Like for them to follow and that kind of stuff.
Oh yeah, there's just like a button at the top, like kind of under the title and our picture. Just there's a follow button.
Perfect. And then if you're on YouTube, just hit the subscribe button and leave a comment below. And that will really help us out. And then we can see you guys on the next episode.
Yeah.